Hello, hello, hello. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. I was just starting off by showing everybody what the Octopus Movement page looked like. And, a lot of people don't even know what the hell the Octopus Movement means. What is an octopus? And, it's been fun this week. We had a really cool turnout of folks that have joined just because they wanted to or because they found a community or some reason to get excited about what was going on. And so today I have Mikki Gaffen Stone. She has been all over the world. She is well versed in human design, which is something I'm very new to, but have really enjoyed. And so please welcome to the show, Mikki Gaffen Stone. Hello, Mikki.
Hi,
Thanks for joining us.
thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. How long have you been part of the Octopus Movement?
I literally started when brain lunch happened. I heard about
Wow.
it just a few days before, and I was just in time to get in. So I
Okay.
dove into that and I was like, wait, what is going on? This is awesome. So
So randomly you found Brain Lunch, or did somebody reach out to you with that? How did you even hear about that? Because that's Brain Lunch, who knows, what does that even mean? When Perry told me
I,
that, I had no idea.
well, a friend of mine, she had met Perry through a networking event online. And she said to me, you know what? You need to go here. You need to check this out. These are your people, I'm pretty sure. So I went to the website and had a look around and I said, brain lunch. Somebody's going to eat my brain for lunch? What? So I, of course, had to go find out. And so it was an option to join. So I signed up and said, let me see what's going on. What's everybody doing? And I was wowed and became a founding member pretty soon after that.
I'm pretty blown away because I'm not saying like I'm in all the meetings or I've been around a long time. Maybe my involvement's been a year. Perry's a really close friend of mine. I love him dearly as a human, apart from all of this madness going on. But when I met you at the Brain Lunch, and I think it's been a couple times since then, in other meetings, or maybe I don't know if you've been in a think tank or part of the 12-hour live thing he was doing, but
Yeah.
it just feels like you've been around forever, like a lot of the people, and maybe it's like me where there's just everybody's just so oddly different and unique that I'm just drawn to hanging out. What is it for you?
I love the diversity of people. I love that I can come in and say pretty much anything, and it's fine. I haven't had anybody tell me I'm crazy. Nobody said, but you can't do that, or that's not the way it's done, or something like that. I haven't had anybody try and restrict what I'm saying or, box me in somehow. And it's like, there's a whole group of people like this? What? I want to get in there. This is great. I can actually express ideas and not be a crazy person.
I agree with that. It definitely feels like, especially with social media, there's more places that tell you you're nuts when you feel a little different than places where you can, it doesn't matter how different you act, you fit in. Like, I feel like that's really the case with the variety of, or the bouquet of humanity, I guess I would say, more of like what was at the Brain Lunch, right? Everyone was just so different in what they do as a living and what they do as a human, how they live, where they are on this earth. I think that's really cool too. That there's people from all over the world, and a lot of them are living elsewhere like yourself
Mhm.
too, right? That's one of the things you help people with is being an expat, right? In your coaching, because
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
challenging
I've
because you,
been
you
moving
you
since
fear
I was,
you're a little fish out of water. You have to figure out how to settle in.
I've been moving since I was 6 months old. So to
Wow.
me, this is what I am. This is what I do. And I, if somebody says to me, where are you from? It's a story. It's not a place. And that's not an affectation. I mean, it's literally, I left the place I was born at when I was 6 months old. I'm really not from there. I've never been back. So I understand what it's like to recreate yourself every time you move. I've done it. Every country I live in, people who know me from the different places that I've lived know me differently. Like the person that they knew in Singapore is not the same person that was in Belgium, which is not the same person, et cetera, et cetera. It's
Sure.
because you change with the environment, like an octopus.
Definitely. I think one thing that's unique, and you can certainly speak to this if it fits or not, certainly say so. But I tend to run into the folks in this group, and they all tend to be empathetic in a specific way, or in a broader way than a lot of people, are more sensitive to things around them that give them like this different sort of sight at the world or a different radar. Do you find that for yourself, like sensitivity wise, or maybe like an ESP through the bullshit of life? Like, that's the other thing.
Definitely. I mean, for my work, in addition to human design, I've done parent coaching for quite some time. I'm a board certified behavior analyst. So applied behavior analysis is something that I can do. But when you work in that field, as with any part of science, they try and box you in and say, you can only do this bit. Ignore everything else you've learned. Just do this. And I've studied a lot of different aspects. And I work with kids who are neurodiverse. Sometimes their parents are neurodiverse as well. And what drives me absolutely nuts is that people who are linear thinking try and simply change the nonlinear thinker to fit their box. And my first question is why, and second is let's not. There's no reason for it, and you're squashing some diversity here that's really important. So I'm very quick to pick up on somebody else's openness. If they have some, I'm so thrilled, because the world is very punitive, particularly if you don't fit in the linear box. And that's deeply troubling, I find.
I totally agree. One thing I'll share, and this is not a dig at my parents because I've certainly failed in my parenting, but during their divorce, I had to go to like, court kind of psychiatric analysis or whatever, for whatever thing they were doing at the time. I was a little guy. I was 7, 8 years old, maybe. But during COVID, I found the paperwork that said this kid has ADHD and has all this, all the trouble reading, all the stuff, and I'm like, and their response to that was to put it in a box. And I didn't see this until I was in my 40s, and not address it, other than utilizing, really discipline, because they sent me to Catholic school, and everything was a regimented way to address the incorrectness in me, right? It wasn't, and this isn't their fault, right? They came up in a system of this is how you do it, and if you don't do it this way, you're a failure. Their parents were, my stepmom's parents were immigrants, and so it was like she had to really take care of herself and get things, lined up for the rest of her life. And my dad pretty much had to take things on himself too. So there wasn't no real emotion. It was very much like preparedness or whatever, but there was never an honesty about going, we're all different. I have 3 kids. There's not one of them even close to the same,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, I've come across this before where parents have taken a diagnosis and kind of staffed it, put it away, and just if we don't acknowledge it, then it's not there. And I've come across the other extreme where I've literally had parents say, okay, my kid has behavioral problems, fix them. Okay, no, the child is not a problem.
Right.
It's, all behavior is communication, all of it. So
Mm.
your child is acting out. What are they communicating to you? They're telling you something. So let's look at that. But it's it's an uphill battle, honestly, to have this recognized. And I'm writing a book right now that's going to address a lot of this because I say it so often. I want to just have a book so I can say, here, read this. Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I'm going to do a brain lunch with the Octopus Movement as well
Oh, cool.
on parenting. And I would
Nice.
love for people to like send me questions, ask me anything. That's how I can give you what you want to hear, or what I think is a good thing for you to hear anyway. I mean, whatever I say, it's a case of check it out, see if it works for you.
Absolutely. And are your kids older like mine?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
In fact, my kids also navigated through moving countries, different school systems, some
Wow.
neurodiversity themselves. Um, and now my eldest has PhD in linguistics, and he's doing his postdoc. Uh, he does language mapping and stuff that I didn't even know was a thing.
Right.
He's doing that. And the youngest one is he works in Hillel doing all sorts of organizing events and so on at a university.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you certainly can speak to, there, not that there's a right way to parent, right? There's not a right way at anything, but being on the outside of, um, you know, or surviving parenthood, right? Now you're looking back and you can be honest about what you did right or things you would have changed.
Oh yeah.
And hello to Michelle.
Hey,
uh,
Michelle.
hey.
No, and there's also I think the one thing, if I wanted a parent to take away an idea, is be open to doing something that nobody else is doing or that
Mm.
nobody else is talking about. One of my kids, when he was little, could not wake him up in the morning to get him to go to school. Not for love nor money. You could yell, you could dance, you could do whatever you liked. He wasn't going to budge. Just nope. And then I just had this happy idea that, you know what? He loves his rats. He had a couple of pet rats. So I would get the rats out and put them on him in his bed, and they would run up and down and sort of tickle him and wake him up. And he would wake up so happy, right? Now, how many parents do you know that puts rats on their kids and then
Yeah.
calls himself a parent coach? But that's why I like being in the Octopus Movement. This is the kind of thing I can tell you, and you might be wondering, but at least nobody's called me crazy yet.
Well, I'm certainly not the one in the movement to call you crazy. I feel a little nutty all the time. We did different schooling for all of my kids, not on purpose, but at some point we recognize like this isn't working. Like doing the thing that our parents did with our kids is not working. A tutor and this and cramming and all of the extra it just was not working. More and harder was not the answer. Like the world looks, at life, it doesn't work for everybody, and it was killing them. My daughter's mental health was not well, and we didn't know what to do, and we I don't know how I was able to be open-minded about things, but that was the only thing we did right. Was people said maybe try something new, and we did. On the last of my kids, he's now 18, we unschooled him as I guess maybe last year or two of school, and so when COVID hit, it was like no big deal. Everyone else was like, oh, what do I do? My kids all around me all the time, and we had already spent time going, okay, the school system isn't what teaches you. How can we spend time teaching? And to me, what the best part was going back. Your son does linguistics, and you speak all these languages.
No, he does.
Or
My
he does.
Yeah, my language is miserable. He speaks
Oh,
loads of
nice.
languages.
Well, mine isn't. I know English basically, but I started learning it's called Likhdawi is the name of our nation, our First Nations language. The tribe is called Wewakam from Vancouver Island. And so when he was coming out of that and COVID happened, was all of that was going on, we had just started learning the language. And what happened was the language and the way we were learning the language and the culture was very much like how we were doing already at home. Like we were looking at each person differently and allowing them to be their own whole human and allowing them to learn in different ways. I'm not telling you it's easy. It's actually a major pain in the ass because you have to like not judge everyone. Like how can you be open with your kid and they're doing something and you're like, that is not at all how I would do it. But the right answer is to shut your mouth sometimes.
Absolutely. Get out of the way. That's particularly parents of teens. I'm
oh, yeah.
often telling them, okay, the first thing you can do for your child is get out of the way. You know, let them do some things, let them learn mistakes, make decisions. Because if you tell your kid what to do all the time, they're not learning anything other than your opinions, but they're not learning how to do things for themselves. And funnily enough, my two kids went to different schools as much as I could manage it intentionally, because I wanted each one to be their own person and not be in the shadow of the other one. So even though it was a pain in the ass with different school holidays and all kinds of different things going on, it was worth it to me to have them in different schools.
What was it, Mikki, how did you get to that level of thought to where, you know, as an adult, you're like, oh, let me break things up. Let me shake the tree. Let me do something different than the world around me. I mean, did you grow up like that? Did you take LSD at 12? I mean, what changed your life to make this like, you know, total mind opening?
First of all, I'm not admitting to any drugs at any given age. Just gonna leave that one right there. So that's the first thing. But I had a lot of different school systems. I'm going to have to say inflicted on me, and I had undiagnosed dyscalculia. So it's like dyslexia of numbers. I transpose numbers. I can't remember them. I'm a hot mess with math.
What is it called again?
Dyscalculia.
Dyscalculia. Okay.
Yeah. And it's not as well known as dyslexia, but it's
never heard of it.
A real problem when you genuinely can't do math, even basic math. And so, of course, I went through my school years being lazy, unmotivated, you know, all the things that the teachers say about kids that don't toe the line. Right. And so, of course, when you get labeled like that, you behave like that, and off we go. So I could see where the problems were and what it's like to be on the receiving end of other people's judgments without them actually giving you a break or, you know, looking at what's going on for you. And I felt there had to be a better way for that. And for my kids, I really didn't like the boxes people were trying to shove them in and the way they wanted them to, you know, follow this line and follow that line. They were two kids that weren't going to do that. And I'm really glad they didn't, because they wouldn't be doing the amazing things they're doing now if we had done that. You know, they both went to Montessori school. I taught them both how to sew, how to knit, how to, you know, do all the different things that make an independent person independent. Yeah. And they can both do all of that stuff now. You know, it wasn't like following a prescription. Mm-hmm. I have a big problem with the prescribed, your child should be doing this at this age and that at that age. Like, why? Yeah, that's very strange. It is. It doesn't. It's like a sell-by date on a food, you know, it doesn't actually mean anything. It's just a CYA. Yeah. And the funny thing as a parent looking backwards, you know, you try your best and obviously there's failures like everything in life, but the greatest thing that I'm telling my kids is like, I thought I knew what was best for you all along, but actually, like, I feel like I'm just getting to know you now. So maybe only listen to some of what I said before and then come to me and ask me what my experience is. But I think I can't tell you how to do life anymore because
the more I learn that they are totally on a separate path than I'm it's almost like I have nothing to do with it anymore other than to be their partner in life, to be a loving partner in life.
I think providing objectivity is one of the best things that a parent can do for their teen and for their young adult, because they don't need your judgment on yeah, you should do that, no, you shouldn't do this, but more, well, if you do this, these are the different things I can see that could happen. If you do that, it can look like this. What do you think? And throw it
Yeah.
straight back to them, not in a disinterested way, but more, I value your own process. How are you going to process through this? What are you going to do? Because they're the ones that live with it, right?
Yeah.
It's all very well and good saying you have to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer, or a failure. But, and that's actually on my website, because I've known people that have had that said to them. But they're born to be an artist. So why would you do that? And I don't think anybody would intentionally squash that in their child. But each generation is trying to parent to the generation before, right? What we have now, what we're looking at right now, we didn't grow up with this. This isn't what it looked like. This planet's completely different. And everybody on it has very different values, very different ideas and opinions, different ways of sourcing information. So if you apply old rules, which basically, what we came up with is, it's not going to work. It's going to miss. And every generation does that. They try and parent from the generation before, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, there is always wisdom, right, that you can carry on, but you can't continue to look at life through the same lens ever, or you will make the mistake of the people that are no longer here. That's, like there's always a way you can look at it, and then you can add a little fragrance of newness to everything. And I think we're all made to reinterpret things, as we go. I mean, we all have
Ideally,
complete new lenses, well, yeah, ideally.
reinterpreting would be great, because one of the problems that I come across is people who are doing what their parents did without examining it, and just, well, my dad did it, so I'm going to do it. And it's like, that is not a good reason. Actually,
Definitely.
it might be an easy reason, and you're going to get approval from your own parent. Okay, but did that actually help? Did you move anything forward? And one of the things that I always tell parents right off the bat, I'm not here to judge. I have no judgment on your parenting at all, because we're all out there trying. It's just, I've spent years working on this stuff, and this is what I have to offer. Have a look at it and see how much of that can work for you. And have I been a perfect parent to my kids? No. No, I raised them up with Monty Python, and when the kids hit that sort of whining stage, I don't do whining. I really don't like whining. And so as soon as one of them would start, I'd launch into my own version of the Four Yorkshiremen. You were lucky. I used to get up half an hour before I went to bed. And I'd go through this whole thing, and I would get one of two reactions. Either the kid would start laughing, or, you don't understand me, stomp off and slam the door. Either way, I didn't have to listen to the whining, and I considered it a win. This is not how everybody wants to parent, but it worked for me.
I agree. I'm, we definitely were young parents. I was 19 and my wife was 20. Actually, yesterday was our 25th wedding anniversary. So it was, we were kind of talking about how things were, and, looking back to what we did as parents. And my son, who is now 23, who is just too much like his old man, he grew up, watching. I was feeding him a bottle because she'd be working. She was a Marine at the time and had these crazy hours in the military. And so I was doing the night shift, and we were watching skateboard videos and like Jackass. Never was I watching like Barney or
Uh-huh.
any of that. It was wild, you know. And then you look and you go, wow, I see why this kid might not be able to chill and has no fear, because that's what he watched, and that sort of became, and he saw me doing things that were just like, oh, you don't have to be afraid if you're doing this, and then all of a sudden he became way better at skateboarding than I could have thought I could have ever had imagined being, you know, amazing. Um, so it's fun to, you know, you never know. Some of the madness is, you think it's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. And then I don't know. I want to see in 20, 30 years what that sort of energy does to him, you know, because
You
we're
know,
not stopping him from doing anything with
I'm
it.
a big fan of the crazy because you have really, I mean, you have X amount of time on the planet. You don't know how
Yeah.
long that's going to be. If you instill fear in kids and stop them from doing things, then what did they do with their time? You know, I've taken my kids to we. In fact, I was just telling someone earlier today we were whitewater rafting in Ladakh on the Indus
Mm.
River, grade 4 rafting. You know, we went hiking up on really high mountain ledges. Like we were at the same level as a bald eagle. We could see the nest. And the ledge was like this, like seriously, do not look down. And there's nothing to hold on to. You know, and I took my kids there. Like they've gone all kinds of places that I look back and say, you know, that might not have been in the parenting book. Taking a kid hang gliding is probably not, you know, but we did it anyway. And I don't know, they're still here. They're doing okay. But I
I
love crazy. I think it's what gives the kids some idea of what they want to do.
Are they still well, I wouldn't say still. Are they wound up, or able, are they gravitating towards the edge of life like that still, or are they calmer than maybe you know, mom was?
um, oh, that's such a good question. Are they calmer than me? I'd say my oldest is a lot like his mom. So he's always rock climbing and running off doing stuff. But both of them will pick up and travel at the drop of a hat, which I really like.
Mm.
They're not afraid to do that, and I love that. And they're very flexible um, for what conditions they travel in. Like we've traveled around Asia and stayed in some very questionable places at times, not necessarily intentionally, but we did. And then you get, you know, the double dare of eat this completely inedible thing. Um, for example, we were traveling through Laos and I don't know, my son was talking to the guide, and the next thing I know, we're eating bull penis. I do
Oh,
not
nice.
recommend it. It is gross. It is chewy. It is good, but you know, we get good a while. Um, and I can honestly say, no, that's not a good thing. But snake is nice, you know. So you just, I don't know. I like the flexibility and being open to whatever comes, and I think both kids have that, and I love that they have that.
But the energy, does it keep them uninjured? That's what I'm curious.
No, never did.
Oh, damn.
No, but
I
you know what? Rope is always steel.
it doesn't keep my kiddos, man. My youngest now facing a potential shoulder surgery. I'm like,
Oh,
no, please. It's where does this stop?
yeah, but that's the thing. If you get out there and do things, then stuff happens, you know?
I know.
I
I
mean,
know.
my youngest, when he was at school, in the space of, I think, 6 weeks, he broke his little finger, his thumb, and something else. And I was literally, I was getting worried the cops were going to come around. But
Oh
every
yeah.
injury was not when I was there. Like two of them were at school, and one was he was at a friend's house. And I'm like, you know, you start to think they're going to be coming after me for beating him or something. But it's just that crashing into walls and stuff. Um, you know, just a bit of a hazard. And my eldest, he got a broken arm and decided we went to China for a trip. And he was literally running up and down the Great Wall of China and then discovered why sweating in a cast is a bad idea. Poor guy. He's just like, ah, it's so
Oh no.
itchy.
So itchy. Ah, I
Yeah,
hate
it was
that.
brutal, poor thing. But he was getting a lot of encouragement from the other tourists who were applauding him running up and down, so he kept doing it.
So with all of this, how do you keep the below people are also in your family? Who are these folks?
The below people?
I have running below your name. George, Charlie, Daisy, Onyx. Is it Mazakine? Mazakine, Theo, Molly, Arnie, and Bruno. Did I miss any?
I don't think so.
All right.
Nobody that counts.
They won't hear me or know what the hell I'm saying.
They don't care so long as they get fed.
These are your children that are not traveling the world as much as you, probably.
No, they moved from Maine to Colorado, but that's it.
That's pretty crazy.
Charlie, Daisy, and Onyx were all rescued from Alabama kill shelters. So they were sent from Alabama to Maine, and then they came here with us.
Wow.
They're all rescues, and honestly, if we had the land, I'd have more. I'd have every dog that I saw that gave me the puppy eyes, you know, be just like, oh, another one.
I've had to tell my wife, Stace, to stop looking at the, the page for the shelter, because she just can't, she'll start crying and like, oh, we should have another. And it's just like, we just can't right now.
We ended up with 13 cats at one point.
Holy
and they started mutinying. And there was there was untold rivalries going on. We were like, okay, let's rehouse a few of these. So we found homes for all but 6, and then one of them died just before, very unexpectedly, just before we moved from Maine to here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we're down to 10. But we used to have goats and chickens and ducks, and then handle the wildlife. We had a bobcat chowing down on a chicken one day when we came home. A bear came through and took the side off the feed shed, that kind of thing.
Your dogs are not helping with this situation?
Well, we wouldn't leave them outside if we're not in the house.
That's true.
The big guy, George, he's Husky Shepherd Akita. He's 100 pounds of, yes, I'd love to help you.
That's what I was thinking. Like, your dogs are not, I mean, these are not all lap dogs and tinies. I mean, only one is smaller, 2 are small dogs, right?
One is relatively small. She's like 40 pounds.
To me, that's still a large dog. My little guy's not even 20 pounds. So,
okay, so Arnold Schwarzenkitty, he is 20 pounds, and he's a cat. And when we first got him, he would literally fit in the palm of your hand. And of course, the attraction when I saw him in the shelter was he was the little nut job that kept scaling to the top, falling off, landing on his head, scaling to the top, falling off, landing on his head. And I said, okay, let's take that one. And he's still a little quirky. Probably all that falling on his head.
Well, when you mentioned that you had a whole Ringling Brothers Circus zoo at home, I was like, I knew I had to meet you, because I too would have at least, I think now that my kids are older, I think, well, I'm just coming out of surgery. If I was 100% healthy, I could probably do 4 or 5 dogs, I think. To me would feel like a dream. I don't know if I'd get anything done, but I'd be playing with them.
The thing is, though, the more you have, the easier it is, because they kind of go like a pack.
Oh, I get that, but we're not even set up physically. So we're in Eastern Washington. We had a little property there, and we had 4 dogs. We had a couple fosters, and then when we moved back towards Seattle, now we're in an apartment, and so we're walking them, on leash several times a day. And you saw the big one we call Moose. That's Solo. She's only 85 pounds, but I can't walk anything over 20 for another probably 6 or 9 months. So when we get some property, that will be it. I think if you could imagine, like, I'm not a huge PT Cruiser fan, but I'd like to tear the roof off of one of those and drive around with a couple alpaca and like a Great Pyrenees, and that would be my car. I don't know why, but yeah, I don't know. I love animals, and and why not? You can
Oh,
get away with
absolutely.
it.
Yeah. No,
There's no purpose to that statement other than why not? And, you know, I'm getting older, so I got to start doing some crazy things that people should question.
you see, that's one of the things. If you start when they're a kid, they have a head start on the crazy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Your kid's got a running lead. It's funny. My youngest son, he has a friend who we knew when we lived in Malaysia. And this guy's now in Colorado. So he's going to come visit when my son's here. And he messaged me the other day and said, there's a couple of things that I really remember from you. And this is a decade ago. And he said, one of them is your sense of humor. And the other one is the way you always used to threaten to dangle your kids out the window by their ankles and have them flogged. And apparently this was something that he admired. I don't know, but it's kind of cool that he thinks that was funny and he liked it. So I did used to get funny looks from the other parents when my kids would tell them what I'd said. But again,
well, it sounds like you might be on the right track if you're parent coaching and they're probably still parent figuring it out.
well, my kids still talk to me. Here's the thing. That's at the end of the day.
That's a great scale.
To still talk to you.
Yeah.
How many adults don't hang out with their parents or don't talk to them? Mine do. And I don't have to jump through hoops to get them to do that. So I count that as a win. That's as good a measure as any.
I think so too. For me, that I haven't set a lot of huge goals in life, but as a young person, I really remember wanting to be a dad. Like that was I don't really remember what it was, but I had started writing a book and I was probably 12 or 13 or maybe even younger about what I would do differently as a parent, and it wasn't a slight at my dad. It was like, I think I have something to offer here, and certainly I had a bad run of dadhood. I wasn't doing well for maybe 10 years, had some chronic pain things and addiction stuff. And when I got rid of that, and figured out how to be good with who I was and solve some of my things, like everything within the family and the kids really gelled and the relationships healed, and like we're really tight as a family. And looking back, I'm like, that is all I ever wanted, and yeah, to have kids that aren't trying to avoid you and right. want to hang out with you, that's pretty wonderful. There's really nothing else I want in life. Like that's a wonderful feeling, especially because I see my own kids being their own people. They're not trying to be like dad or mom. They're totally different, and it sounds a lot like that's what your kids are doing as well. So,
yeah, they don't follow me and they don't follow their father. They're doing their own thing, which is, I think, wonderful because, it's sometimes when we want to help, we're telling the kids, oh, you should do this, follow that line of school, go here, try these things. But you don't know what you're limiting them from doing that. And definitely. It's a really easy thing to do, but the repercussions, you never even know what you've stopped them from. And I think that's, if you don't have to do that, why would you do that?
This is just sort of dawning on me. I'm wondering if, so not everyone in the audience knows what human design is, and I'm fairly new to it, but it's been helpful. My daughter's the one that, in the family that really dug into it first. But being able to see your maybe personality types or maybe some ideas within that, is that helpful for you when analyzing the family dynamic, or do you utilize that in that way?
Phenomenally helpful.
Interesting.
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, every design, energy type, and the profiles and all the things that come into it make it individual. But I mean, that there are some basic characteristics that you really need to know. So, for example, if you have a child that's a manifester, then that kid is going to present you with speed. They need to do things fast. They need to do it now. They're going to do something for 10 minutes, change your mind, go over here. Looks a lot like ADHD may be, it isn't. This is how fast that child is learning, and they're getting what they need in that short space of time. Just because somebody else says you need this much time to do this activity, this child doesn't. Maybe they need that, you know? And if you don't know that, then it's very easy to start worrying, oh no, my kid's not paying attention, they're not behaving properly, they're not doing all the things that everybody else's kid is doing. And no, they're not supposed to. That's not their design. So if you know what their design is, and then you know the parents' design, it's so much easier to work with the two of them to say, well, you know, when you feel this way and your kid's doing this, this is what's happening. And then you have some choices for how you respond to that. So I think it's tremendously helpful. And even with the definitions, which is basically how many circuits you have in your human design. If you have a single definition, then you have one voice to listen to when you make your decision. You can have up to 4 circuits. That's unusual, but you can have up to 4. So a person with a quad split or a triple split, it's going to take them a lot longer to make a decision because they have a bunch of things to get into place first. So if you know that about a person, then you're not going to try and rush them.
So for me, like, I don't even know what a quad split is, or I know what my numbers are in that, and I've watched a lot of not documentaries, but little, like, maybe 10 minutes from people that say that they're this specific type, this is how they see life or whatever. And I don't quite understand all the different connections in that. But on the high level, like for someone just new to it that doesn't understand what's the value of human design, and it's not magic, what is this? What are they looking at?
That's actually an awesome question. So human design, one of the things that I love about it is it shows you what's right about you. So the things that you have a tendency to do, but you're trying not to because everybody tells you it's not right, those things are probably in your design. And with learning your human design, you can see what is possible with what you can do. And you start to discover how to make decisions that feel right to you, and how not to get sidetracked by other people's sort of noise, if you will. It can give you a lot of really useful information. For example, for me, if you give me an open-ended question, I don't do so well with those because a million options come into my head immediately, and I don't know which one to go for. Give me 2-3 choices and I can give you a decision, no problem. So that works for me. If you're working with a manifestor, just give them an open thing and let them go, and it just helps you to live more comfortably with who you are, knowing your human design. And it's an experiment. I mean, this works with the science that I have as well, is that it's not, I tell you, this is your type, this is what you do, and there's no changing it. You can't change your design, but you can change what you do with it to a degree. And basically, if I give you information, the idea then is you go and play with it and see what happens. Did it work like that? How did you find it? What was different for you? And then you revisit and see what's next. But there are so many layers with human design that when you get down to the channels, for example, and the gates, you have 64 gates. Each gate that's activated has 6 possibilities within it from a hexagram. And I can get into all kinds of jargony stuff, but the point is detail, lots of it. And then if you do an asteroid overlay, which comes from Kim Gould, she's the only person doing it, that gives a whole other level. I mean, you could go down this rabbit hole for hours, but it's a fun exploration of who you are and how to enjoy being who you are.
That's pretty cool. I think maybe 10, 15 years ago, if I'd have heard something like an asteroid, this or that, I probably would have been turned off and gone, nah. But I don't know what's changed other than I'm sort of like what you were saying, looking at it going like, why not? Why not have fun? Why not explore? It could be right. all I know is I'm often wrong and maybe I don't know everything. Let's see what's here, and that's kind of been my MO. It's not how everybody operates, though. There's, especially when you're carrying with you, societal and cultural things. If you brought this into a standard American school, you'd be laughed at probably, until, maybe you could find a cool high school teacher somewhere. But there's probably not a lot of going, yeah, let's investigate who all this individuality is, and then allow that person to be the complete individual in their individuality. Can you imagine what schools would be if we actually started like that?
Frankly, the standard American school is highly resistant to any new ideas coming in whatsoever.
No.
Oh,
Get out of here. That's why I took my kid out of school.
Imagine having, you've got a child with autism in your classroom, and a behavior analyst who specifically works with kids with autism says, hey, I can help you. Let me give you some ideas. No, go away. That is the situation that's out there. And that's with something that's established science. So you want to bring human design in? That would be fun. That would be cool. They couldn't do it. It wouldn't last a minute. But I just think people are very quick to shut things down without even looking. And why? You might find something really cool there. Why would you close your eyes to it? It's Definitely. Just, investigate. If it's crap, it's crap. Go somewhere else. But if it's good, then go play. And the first time I heard human design with asteroids, I'm like, that's some good mushrooms. And then, okay. But I decided, okay, let me look anyway. Let me go discover this. And I was like, what? This is amazing. Thank God I came and looked. It's so cool. And I could have missed that really easily.
I almost missed the human design thing completely because of, even I'll tell you how hard-headed I am. Even when my friends Steve and Kelsey, they were all into the Enneagram, and they had this book, and they were like, oh, it's so helpful. And I had spent so many years studying people to use in like a business salesy way that I was like, yuck, I'm tired of this. It's all of that seemed like a manipulation, and I really did not understand it. And so I guess I'm sort of rambling here.
Or exploring a thought, perhaps.
Yes, definitely. And then we had some people pop in. Let's say hi to Michael.
Hi, Michael.
Hello, Michael. I don't know you, but thank you so much for coming by. How do you suggest public schools not be a factory of conformity? I don't. That's why I took my kid out of school. I agree with spending time with your children as much as possible if you can stomach teaching them or pointing them in other directions. That's my opinion. How about you, Mikki?
For my part, I really like Montessori. And I have been a Montessori teacher. So when my kids were little, I decided to put them in Montessori. So I figured, okay, so I'll learn it too, and then I know what they're doing. It's another example of doing different things in different countries. And Montessori is fabulous. With the more kids you have, the better it is, because you have 3 years in one classroom, and the little ones are learning from everybody. The middle ones are helping the little, learning from the big. The big in this role of responsibility, but they also get time to their own learning. And the follow the child is the basis for Montessori. So you're literally looking to see, what are they interested in? What are they gravitating to? Let me give them everything they need to explore that. Now, if we could build that up to take kids further through the school years, so that they're learning practical hands-on stuff like, I don't know, how to balance your bank book, how to do taxes, how to set up your own business rather than just who else do you want to work for? Because all schools are organizing their kids to go work for other people. They don't assume you're going to work for yourself. If you look at people like Richard Branson, who dropped out of school, those are the people who really make stuff happen a lot of the
Yeah.
times. This is speaking in generalizations, but schools don't prepare you to go out and be an individual. Montessori is the closest thing I've seen. And I think that could be developed for kids all the way through. Now, does that get them into university? Probably not, because university does more of the same, right? I have 4 degrees and I know exactly how to get a degree, and I know exactly how to run through that process. And it's a system that you learn, right? But does that actually equip you for being out there in the world? Not really. Does it teach you critical thinking? These days, no. Who teaches critical thinking anymore?
I think what we're missing out on is actually teaching our kids how to learn. Like if you teach them how to learn anything and how to break everything down, like wherever you're stumped, let's stop, let's slow this down, to a point where they can figure it out themselves. Like that's the great, where you figure out that there's no lid on this thing and I can keep changing and learning, and then you give yourself the freedom to do so. It would unlock a lot of adults that feel like they don't know what they want to do and they don't have hobbies and all these things. It's because they've gone to school in a system and they've learned, like you said, how to pass a test and how to do some things, and now they've learned their job, but they never learned how to really learn, like what you're inquisitive about in the moment, like how do trees grow? Well, go learn that right then. Like we stop the inquisitive nature of things, I think, when we put bells and timers on life, which I think which schools are doing. And so I do, of all the systems, I'm not anti-school in general. I probably sound like an asshole, but the thing is, like, I just see in my area, high school with tons of kids in depression and like, this isn't working. And that's the end result. And then where do they go? And then they get jobs and they can't actually provide for themselves if they stay in the system like they're being told, and they come back to this area in Seattle. Like you have to make way too much money and you have to have all of these things, and then they just sort of give up and they're like, what do I do?
I think another big problem that absolutely has to be addressed before schools can be helped is the way the teachers are treated, because teachers are hemmed in on what they're able to teach. Well, I mean, for goodness sakes, even banning books in school and so on. Octopus schools, definitely. But I mean, banning books, who the hell bans books? People
That's a weird thing. That's so weird.
It's a terrible thing to do. But then, I know a teacher, she's been a friend of mine for a few years now, and she recently had to have a GoFundMe so that she could put books in her classroom. Now, what do you expect from a system where teachers are so underfunded, they have to have GoFundMes to put equipment in their classroom? Her class hasn't had a window for 5 years now. She's been put in temporary accommodations and stuff with her young class. They don't even have windows to the outside. Again, what are you going to get from this? Nothing good. This is not a healthy environment. So the teachers have to have a lot more opportunity to teach, and they need the equipment and the stuff to teach with. I mean, and the support, they're not getting the support. The school shootings that happened in Texas a little bit ago, Uvalde, or however you say it, after that, teachers are being told, well, you have to make sure your classrooms stay safe. And, and there's all talk of arming teachers. For crying out loud, you won't let them select a book, but you'll arm them. What? That is a fundamental problem with the school system.
Definitely.
So if everyone pursued alternative education, the school system will collapse. I would argue that the school system has collapsed. And I don't think the standards are maintainable, honestly. They're not being maintained. There is a
Well,
huge problem with the school system as is.
and the standards aren't honest. Let's be honest about, like, Michael, thank you for your comment, but like, I'm a graduate of high school. I cheated my whole way through school. And it wasn't because I was trying to be nefarious. I had a full-time job there at the end. I mean, I was just taking care of myself and trying to get out of the system that everyone was saying I had to be in. I didn't know. I mean, I was afraid of the dropout label and all that. But honestly, if I'd have left school, none of you guys would know any different about me, because I had already had businesses before then. I have had them after. It didn't affect me. School was like almost an annoyance. I'm not saying it wasn't good for me, and I didn't learn a ton from the people around me, learned how to be in community with others, learned how to do some hard things, like, but that's everywhere. I agree the school system is shook. And I'm not afraid of systems collapse, because I mean, the more I learn about indigenous culture and like my family's culture and how that came to be and how it went away, well, that system all disappeared. And that was a really holistic system in my eyes. I'm not saying the world should fall apart and we should go learn in the woods. But what I'm saying is maybe there's something in between where we acknowledge that there's all kinds of differences and all kinds of different people, and that the system that we started with was made a long time ago from people that weren't thinking about people like you and me, or honoring the children that were going to be considered weirdos or freaks or fuck offs or druggies or skater kids or what. Those are all the kids that are making cool things now, right? I'm the skater kid. I'm the kid. I make all the guys that people think like, ooh, I don't know. Like, well, no, we were safe people then. They needed a place to get out. They didn't have a safe place at home. And these people didn't have a system that was actually embracing them and taking their wants and desires somewhere,
I think it would be very cool if the school system could at least evolve or be open
Yeah.
to evolving in a different way, because it's set up right now for the Industrial Revolution era and, preparing people for factories and so on. Because the first thing we do to kids is say to them, okay, you're going to start school now. Sit down, shut up, learn, do exactly the opposite to what your body wants to do, which is get up and move and touch everything and explore, right? That's how we actually learn. And I think we lost somewhere along the lines the idea that kids do not have a job of growing up. That will happen anyway. The kid's job is to be a kid. And we don't let them do that as soon as we make them sit in desks and then wonder why they have a problem with it. So there is a huge shift that needs to happen. And if that's a complete breakdown, then it's a complete breakdown. If it can happen without that, then, maybe that would be less painful. But right now, there's a problem with the teachers are just not being able to teach the way they want to, the way they've learned to do. They now can't do it. They're being hemmed in. And, you can't teach this. You're not allowed to say that. You must say this. What's that? That's propaganda. That's not teaching.
Right.
So that's, it's not okay.
Definitely.
And I agree, it's not about algebra, but, dyscalculia right here.
But see, the thing is, like Michael's saying, school, it's not about algebra, yet the system makes it about algebra and about the stuff. And we know that really what we're concerned about is the hearts and humanity of our people coming up through it that's getting lost. There's a disconnect, because we do want our kids to be whole and grow and learn and have the community. Yet from kindergarten, they're stopped in their tracks at exploration. Take a kid to music class in first grade. Nope, don't touch that. Stop. Whoa, 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 whoa. This is how you do music. Like,
Right.
It drives me insane. If you don't bang on the pots, if you don't explore, you never can get there. Like Einstein, could you imagine parenting him? He was probably insane. You probably like, God, this kid, he was the way it was because he tested and he played and he probably caught himself on fire. I'm not saying you can do that at school, but you look at the school and we don't even have the social thing going. We don't have community at any. I mean, it's almost gone by third grade where there's division and you're not wearing the right thing. And, now kids, if they don't have phones by second or third grade, other kids say, look at you, you're this or that. So even the community and the social aspect is lost at school. That's not our priority. It's not coming out through high school. You don't see people leaving and this is my experience only. I don't see kids leaving the high schools in our area feeling full of life. All right, I'm going to explore the world. And, when they come back 4 years from college, they're doing their thing. A lot of them are doing jobs they don't want and they don't like where they are in life right now. And that's disheartening because it feels like all they've ever lost was the ability to dream, because the world's a big place and they're just replicating something that they don't want and they don't see it. But
yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of room for improvement and putting the humanity back into, or I guess into, the school system. That would be an urgent need, I would say. And personal soapbox, but stop banning books. Holy cow. That is just, it blows my mind. If a book makes you uncomfortable, that's probably the point. That's a good thing. That's why you want to read that book. The whole point is it makes you uncomfortable, makes you think about things. It's foolishness to say, well, you can't read this book, it'll make you turn into X person. If it was that easy, the self-help shelves wouldn't need to have the thousands of different books on them that they have, right? Because you just pick one and it would change you into that person. But it doesn't work that way, does it?
Well, what they don't understand is the people that are leading the PTA movements or whoever that's doing that, all they do is light the candle for people like me. Like, oh, which books have I missed? Right? And I'm not saying I want the dirty, disgusting, or the fringe of humanity. But if you're saying that that's something wrong with that, I at least need to hear it before it's gone. That's how I feel. I don't care what religion. I don't care what it is. I need to hear what's in that book. I'm not afraid of it. It's just paper.
Sometimes it would be nice if the person who's pushing to have it banned had actually read the damn thing.
Yeah.
Because they go by titles quite often. I've seen that happen. And it's like,
I know. That's how I got into Aldous Huxley? Because I read something and then I started reading one of his books. And I'm like, why are people nuts about this book? And then I read a thing about someone writing something about how disgusting it was. And it made no sense. It was not. And I said, this person did not read this book. And when I started looking deeper, exactly what you said is happening. And that's the way a lot of society, like the people that make the rules aren't doing it because they are looking for wisdom. They're looking to repeat control and because they think they're supposed to. And I'm bored with supposed to. Hey, Mikki, we're over an hour. You have an appointment after this, and I want to honor that. Are you good on time?
Yes, I'm fine. I'm actually going to be picking up my son from the airport.
Oh, that's it. Okay, yeah, you're picking up your son. I didn't want to run long, and usually I'm pretty tight at an hour, but this was such a great, insightful conversation. I think you're someone that I would love to hear more about. I mean, human design is a very interesting thing to me. If you want to spend some more time, I'd love to talk more about that, or maybe go through some details about how you've looked at it, and maybe promote your site a little. That's not why we were here today. We were here to talk about what makes you an octopus, and wow, you've only been here a short time. and you fit right into the community because the community doesn't have walls or rules. And I think that's why you found a seat at the table so quickly. It's just like, oh, this is easy.
I'm very happy to be here, and I am waiting for Perry to get that airplane because that was a selling point, that airplane.
All right.
It's got to come get me.
Well, Perry, I might have to help you get that. It sounds like we need an airplane because I'll need a ride.
Yeah, we need an airplane.
That would be great. Well, Mikki, thank you so much for your work in human design and your work in coaching and being an open-minded person. I really appreciate you as a person, and I appreciate you being here with me today. And the fact that you love animals, like there's not enough people that are taking care of animals in a loving, caring way. So, you're my people. Let's run their names across the bottom if you want.
Yes.
You should have a GoFundMe for pet food.
Right? Seriously.
Anyway.
I actually put them in, the dogs are in size order. So
George nice.
Is a Shepherd Akita, Charlie's a Rottweiler Lab, Daisy's a Shiba Inu Retriever, Onyx is a Shepherd God knows what, and Mazakine is a Pug Gold. Yes.
Well, here's your website, gaffenstone.com, and you can go there and get a free human design reading. It doesn't turn you into a Jedi or a witch. Don't worry.
Well, no, I can help with that. If that's what you're interested in, let's talk about it. But
that's what you're into.
You can get your chart, and when you download it, there'll be some hyperlinks, and you can go investigate a little bit and have a look. And awesome. Talk to me if you want to be a Jedi or a witch. I'm totally down.
Awesome. Hey, thanks everybody. Michelle, Michael, Perry, everyone in the audience. And if I said anything that rubbed you the wrong way, it's what I do. It's only my ideas, and they're often off, and they're my ideas. So forgive me if I pushed your buttons. But maybe that might be a good reason to reach out and get your human design figured out.
Absolutely. That's great.
Oh, awesome. Hey, this has been so cool. And I do really want to talk more about the human design with you and your experience with it. Maybe even, I don't know, I maybe even do a test case on one of my kids that hasn't done more into it, or I don't know, or something to kind of show your skills. I think that'd be really neat to show the world. It still sounds mystical when you're talking asteroid charts and things, and it's not as wild as it seems, from the outside. Once you're inside, is what I mean.
Well, it's an experiment. So you learn some things and then you go try them out.
Definitely. Very cool. Well, here we are. We're wrapping it up. Thank you so much, Mikki. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. All right. Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. And we have a guest every day this week from the Octopus Movement, where they're just going to share why they're an octopus, why they're here, and what they've gotten from their experience. So blessings, my friends out there, and take care of yourself today. Love you.